Allow me to tell you what's on my mind today. When I was a kid, I, like so many of my friends, wanted to have superpowers like Superman. I loved that show. I used to watch it all the time. I wanted to be faster than a speeding bullet. I wanted to be stronger than a locomotive. Most of all, I wanted to leap tall buildings in a single bound and bend steel in my bare hands. Now I'd like to walk over a curb. Anyway, in other words, I wanted to go from being a little kid to being the strongest person in the world. I wanted to be better than everyone else so that no one could dare tell me what to do. I wanted others to treat me as if I was a god. I was a kid. So as I got older, I realized that nobody could ever be faster than a speeding bullet, stronger than a locomotive, leap tall buildings in a single bound, or bend steel in their bare hands. I find out that you can't do it. Nobody can. So in accepting that fact, I also came to realize that the reason I wanted those superpowers were for very selfish reasons. If God did choose to bless or curse me with superpowers, because I'm not sure it's a blessing, it would not be for selfish reasons if God wanted to do it. It would be for me to be able to perform tikkun olam, to help repair this broken world. And boy, is it broken. Yes, the best superheroes all went out of their way to do good and to fight evil. But even Mighty Mouse, when being called to save the day, would chant the very egotistical words, "Here I come to save the day." Yes, to Mighty Mouse, it was all about him. Unlike all the other rodents, most of which spread germs, this superhero mouse chose to sing the words, "Here I come to save the day. Mighty Mouse is on the way." Hey. Another thing happened. When I realized I could never have superpowers, I stopped reading comic books. And in the blink of an eye, rather than dreaming of being a superhero, oops, I lost my place. Excuse me a second. So I stopped reading comic books, and in the blink of an eye, rather than dreaming of being a superhero, I now wanted to perform miracles. So I decided to become a combination Rabbi Chazan. What else? What else? So Justice, the Marvel people, might have the mighty Avengers, but DC Comics has the Justice League. Both of these groups of superheroes choose to work together, not to glorify their own names, but to help make the world a more just place to live. They fight evil out of love for the right and love for being treated unjustly. They can't stand those things. They fight the evil. And at the same time, they walk humbly and love mercy. To do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly is exactly what we just heard our wonderful Baruch Hashem folk read to us. I pointed it out. And we find that even if we do not have the temple, and in our case, even a temple, even if we are unable to observe various rituals as was done in ancient times, we can still do what God requires of us, because what God requires of us is not sacrifices. It doesn't say that. To do justly, love mercy, and work humbly with God. Leon Roston's Treasury of Jewish Quotations says what justice means. And here's what he writes. When Rabbi Ami's hour to die came, he wept bitterly, and his nephew asked, "But why do you weep?" Is there any Torah you have not learned and taught? Is there any kindness you have not practiced? And you never accepted public office or sat in judgment on others. Never. The rabbi replied, that is why I weep. I was given the ability to extend justice, but never carried it out. That's what he wrote. So often we have the ability to set things right, but we are too tired or we're too tied up in our own lives, and we don't do it. This story illustrates that even if we are consumed with good and holy acts, the best of the best, we still have to find time to fight for and to extend justice. We have no choice. And pretty soon, Marilyn is going to read that to us in one of the prayers, the prayer for our country. Then again, in the Midrash, which happens to be Genesis Rabbah 40:30, we read, Abraham said to God, if you want the world to exist, you cannot insist upon complete justice. If it is complete justice you want, the world cannot exist. Oh my God, what does that mean? So what do we learn from this? To do justice alone does not work. It's not good enough. We must also mitigate justice with love and mercy. Then there is the third thing that God requires of us, to walk humbly. I would like to share two pieces again from Leon Roston's book. Actually, I had better share three so that you do not try to purposely appear humble in the presence of others. So as Nachman of Bratislav was known to say, the man who acts humble in order to win praise is guilty of the lowest form of pride. If you're not a humble person, don't pretend to be. You could learn to be. Something might happen that makes you humble, but don't pretend to be humble if you're not. And with that in mind, let me share the wisdom found in Tana de Rabbi Eliyahu 193, which says, be not like a large door, which lets in the wind, or like a small door, which makes the worthy stop. Be rather like the threshold, which all people are able to cross. Finally, one of the best ways to keep your ego grounded and avoid falling into the trap of feeling superior to others, let me share the words found in the Testament of Judah Asheri, where it tells us that a sage said, I never met a person in whom I failed to recognize something superior to myself, if that person was older. I said that person has done more good than I could ever. If younger, I said I have sinned more. And if richer, I said he has been more charitable. If poor, I said that person has suffered more. If wiser, I honored that person's wisdom. And if not wiser, I judge that person's faults lightly. That's an amazing statement. You always find the best in somebody else. That's what it boils down to. And it may sound simple, but sometimes it requires us using whatever superpowers and whatever wizardry we know to keep us to do justly, to love mercy, and then to walk humbly with our God and with our fellow human beings. You know, the other day, someone told me that they could never feel like a superhero or a wizard because such people are big and strong. But that person who told me this was small and weak. It was in the hospital. And the person was kind of short and obviously was weak. So I shared a line that I learned earlier this year, and I told him, you are not short. You are just more down to earth. I didn't make that up and didn't, I just remembered it. You aren't short, you're just more down to earth. The truth is, those who live high in the clouds do not come down to earth, and we cannot help others unless we come down from that mountain that we have been living on, where we spend our days looking down on everyone else. Remember, it wasn't Snow White that saved the seven little dwarfs. On the contrary, the dwarfs saved Snow White, and in doing so, they helped repair that which was broken in the world. Let's review the dwarfs a little bit. We can learn a lot from them. These were the dwarfs that came down to earth, and they and others they came across. Imagine this. So, first one I remember is Dopey. Remember Dopey? Dopey was the only one of the seven that did not have a beard. Did you know that? Do you remember that? Dopey didn't have a beard. So I do, so I'm not Dopey. I'm the mule, but I'm not Dopey. But let us learn that if all it took to be a religious person was a beard, then a billy goat would be ultra orthodox. It takes more than a beard. It takes more than anything that's like that. After all, it was Dopey who, even though accident prone, did not complain about it. In fact, Dopey kept his mouth shut. Something we could learn from him, that there is a time to do just that if we want to walk humbly. Keep your mouth shut. My father always said, if you don't have anything nice to say, then don't say anything. And it's right. There is a time for everything under the sun, and there is a time to keep our mouths shut. Then there's Sleepy. Remember Sleepy? Sleepy almost always seems lethargic. But do not think for a moment that he's lazy. When the need arises, he lifts himself up and works in tandem with the other dwarfs. Grumpy just always seems to find something to complain about. Oh, that poor guy, that Grumpy. In fact, when Snow White first comes to their home, who is it but Grumpy that voices his opposition to her being there? But when the wicked queen threatens Snow White, a bit later in the story, guess who warns her and even rushes to help her when she's in danger? That's right. Grumpy leads the charge to save her. Another thing, Grumpy has the biggest nose among the dwarfs and often has one eye shut. So do not let someone's looks fool you. They may be the hero you're looking for. Oh, God, remember Bashful? Haha. This is a great story, Bashful. He had a great story. He was very shy, but he is also incredibly kind-hearted. Sometimes the very person who finds it hard to approach you may be the one person in the room that you would be wise to take the initiative with. You just might find a very special hero in your life. Perhaps even your, quote, Prince Charming. Sneezy. Oh, yeah, yeah. Remember him? Sneevy suffers from terrible hay fever. But since COVID, most of us try to avoid something or someone who sneezes and sniffles all the time. This is, I don't know, I do. When I see somebody, I go the other way. Anyway, Sneezy sneezes. His sneezes prove to be a special gift, as his sneezes are so powerful that they can move whatever you might want or need to be moved with one giant achoo. So Happy is the one with the perpetual smile on his face. Remember Happy? His laughter never seems to stop. I have known such people in my life and have seen others yell at them to stop smiling, to stop being so happy. There must be something wrong with them. You know, if I could have a superpower, I think that being happy all the time might be the one I would wish for. Although I think I am happy all the time. Anyway, then there's Doc. Remember Doc, the leader, the Moshe of the dwarfs. Doc is at point in his life. He's at a point in his life where he needs to wear glasses. or he can't see. He has times that he mixes up his words, and I do not know for sure, but it would not surprise me if he also was wearing hearing aids. Because in those days, I'm not sure they had them, but if they did, he'd be wearing them. He's the elder among them, and not only does he take his role seriously, the other dwarfs treat him justly and with love and mercy, and they walk humbly behind him. He's always in the front. The dwarfs may not have been giants in size, and they weren't. But if we ask Snow White what she thought of them, I will bet you that with all their faults, she'd be the first to tell you that they are not only her friends, but that they are her heroes. And in her eyes, they are giants. May each of us and our families help someone else feel like a giant. And may we see the superpowers coming from each of us. Each of us have some. May we all do justly. May we all love mercy. And then may we all be worthy to walk humbly with our God. And with that, I would like to say shalom